It's Wednesday, October 6th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Prime Minister Mia Mottley says Barbados and the Caribbean community are committed to engaging the world together as they face similar circumstances, trials, tribulations, and opportunities. She made the comment as she formally accepted the presidency of the 15th session of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development from President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, during a handover on Tuesday.
We believe that the issues in many instances can be met by judicious policies and fairness and equity and opportunity. But we also recognize that as easy as it is to say so, it is that much harder to persuade all of that. And to that extent, therefore, in the same way that this organization has done great work that eventually has come to be embraced as norms, that we hope that over the course of the next 3 years, we can, through the Bridgetown Covenant, as well as the Spirit of Speightstown, which is the political declaration, that we will be able to have an impact on the conduct of development and trade across the global community. And to that extent, therefore, I look forward to working with you. I'm happy that our sister, the Secretary General of CARICOM, is also here because, as I said, we do this not just as Barbados, but as the Caribbean community, because that is our commitment to engage the world not as a singular territory, but as a community that has, in all respects, faced similar circumstances, trials and tribulations and opportunities.
Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Averly wants government to allow residents full responsibility for sporting and recreational facilities built within their communities. He said while he was unsure who was currently responsible for the upkeep of those facilities, he believed they would be better taken care of and properly used if directly controlled by residents. He made the comments during debate in Parliament on Tuesday on a resolution to acquire land at Workman's St. George for recreational purposes.
But I know that it was a declared policy, long ago, a declared policy, that recreational facilities, especially at the community level, would be managed by persons resident in the community. I do not know that that policy, having been declared, is being pursued. If it is, certainly would be interesting to be brought up to date as to what is happening with reference to how pavilions and sporting facilities are managed. Are we doing it centrally still from the Sports Council or some other government entity? Are we doing it centrally from the Ministry of Sport? I think it is very worthwhile that we go in a direction that we employ, and when I say employ, I use that in a broad sense. I'm not necessarily talking about any monetary remuneration, but certainly that we utilize and employ community persons to help to manage and run these facilities.
Bishop Atherley said commercial opportunities should also be incorporated into any facilities that were constructed.
If you build a sports pavilion at Workman's, or if you build it at Haynesville, or if you build it at Waterford, Mr. Speaker, it is a place where a lot of activity is going to be centered, hopefully, and I believe it establishes clearly the opportunity for some level of commerce, especially by those who live in the community. You can't just go and drop a pavilion, drop a sports club, drop a resource center, and not see the opportunity to provide for commercial activity, especially in these days when government is talking about having a spirit of business, when government is talking about decriminalization of vending. A tremendous opportunity attaching to the potential around these sporting facilities.
A team from the largest for-profit healthcare provider in New York has just wrapped up a fact-finding mission in Barbados. Director of Global Health at Northwell Health, Eric Choi Penner, along with one of his administrators, 3 doctors, and 2 intensive care unit nurses, toured the Queen Elizabeth Hospital and the COVID-19 treatment facility at Harrison Point. He explained that the visit to Barbados, now experiencing its worst wave of COVID-19 cases, was several months in the making after discussions with a Barbadian diplomat and Prime Minister Mia Mottley in New York.
The Northwell team came at the invitation of Prime Minister Motley, who we met last Friday for the first time in New York during her visit to the UN General Assembly. We were able to give her a tour of one of our freestanding accident and emergency departments, and we're talking to her about some of the advances we had made during COVID in telemedicine and in using specialty care concentrated at one hospital to serve kind of our entire system of 23 hospitals. So she invited us down to help her, number one, with the COVID surge that was on the island, and to do a preliminary evaluation of the healthcare system, the public health system, both at Queen Elizabeth Hospital and the surrounding polyclinics and 24-hour urgent care, just to see how some of the lessons learned during Northwell's COVID surge could be used in partnership with QEH to improve healthcare on the island. So the first team that came down is really a treatment team. We have 2 nurses that are both ICU and COVID trained, and 2 doctors that came down, and I'll get into their details in a minute. But this really was an introductory visit.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
The news from our regional neighbors now. The recently elected Philip Davis administration in the Bahamas says over 500 government promotions and hires are currently under review. Minister of State for the Public Service, Pierre Glover-Roll, explained that the undertaking was to ensure that the promotions and hires were based on merit. We get more in this report from Our News Bahamas.
Not doing anything peculiar. In any new administration, we would assess what has taken place, especially what has taken place in the last 6 to 8 weeks. So we have placed all pending promotions and hirings on hold. I'm making assessment in the shortest possible time.
The State Minister for Public Service says officials are working hard to ensure that review is completed in a reasonable amount of time.
Obviously, persons are waiting. It's not our intention to disenfranchise. We have to make sure that policy is being conformed to. We have to make sure that these promotions are being issued on merit. And of course, we also want to continue. I continue to say that we want to consider that we make sure that our personnel is not disenfranchised by a long wait.
On September 13th, just days before the 2021 general election, then Public Service Minister Renzo Roll revealed the government had officially made 1,200 workers from its 52-week unemployment program permanent and pensionable. During a Free National Movement rally in Abaco, he said 85 people from the island were approved with letters of employment readied. Glover-Roll says so far the process is going smoothly and assessments are being made in consultation with other ministries.
And finally, global economic growth will moderate slightly this year. That's according to Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, who also highlighted the importance of scaling up green investment over the next 2 decades.
In July, we projected global growth at 6% in 2021. As you will see in our updated World Economic Outlook next week, we now expect growth to moderate slightly this year. But the risks and obstacles to a balanced global recovery have become even more pronounced. We need substantial scaling up of green investment over the next 2 decades, and we need support for the most vulnerable within societies and among countries. This will help ensure a transition that benefits all and one that is just.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.